and welcome to Coffee Break Blogging, where you'll learn to grow and monetize your blog in short, tactical installments you can use right away. Now here's the next episode in our series. Welcome back to another installment of Coffee Break Blogging, where this isn't just another podcast, it's a full course on building an online business based around blogging from scratch. My name again is David Risley, and if you want to catch up with us from the beginning, be sure to go to coffeebreakblogging.com to view the full archives of this show. Okay, let's get on to our topic for today. We've been talking the last few episodes about membership sites and various aspects of growing a membership site on your blog. Today on that theme, I want to talk to you about a membership site community, building a community inside of your membership that is going to be one of the benefits of your program. Now, many people have gone back and forth on deciding whether they should have a community or not. And many people I've seen kind of knee-jerk into creating a community inside their membership, thinking that it's going to be a lot easier to do than it actually is. I'm here to tell you that actually, and many times, starting a community inside of a paid membership area is a lot more difficult than it probably sounds. So first off, let's talk about a few pros and cons of whether you should have a community in your membership site. First, let's go to the pros side of it. Well, one of them is that it allows you to have support for your members when you're not actually there. Now, that one's really convenient. For example, if you go into the Blog Monetization Lab, people can ask questions that are coming up and other members can chime in and answer that. And so it actually provides a nice support network for all lab members, even though I'm not the one personally having to answer them. Now, obviously, I'm in there pretty much every day and I'm answering questions. So that's a really big part of it. Something you'll have to take into account, by the way. This definitely takes some time. But I've got that extra support network of actually utilizing the community itself to support the community, which is really, really great. Another pro is that it helps form bonds in between your members. It forms relationships, people get to know each other, and that helps people stick around. I mean, when you have that sense of community inside the program where they feel like they really belong there, and they would be kind of sad if they had to disconnect from that group, that helps keep people in the program longer. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And then thirdly, on the pros side of it, is that you're helping generate user-generated content. User-generated content is nice, helpful content, but you didn't have to write it. Your members are actually writing it for you by way of forum post and various other posts inside the community. And if you have a search function on that, that all becomes really helpful stuff for future members, and you didn't have to write a lick of it. So that's really, really helpful from the pro side. Now, let's look at a couple of really big cons here that you need to take into mind here about starting a community with your membership. The first one is that it does definitely require maintenance. And what I mean by that is it's going to require you to be in there interacting regularly, like quite a bit, like at the same level, if not more, than you would probably handle your own email inbox. You're going to have to log in and answer people's questions in that community. So that's just something that you've got to plan for. Like I said, I'm inside the lab community pretty much every day, and that's something that you're going to have to do yourself if you're going to start a community. So just ask yourself the honest question, is that something you want to do? Now, the second thing, and this is a biggie in the con category, is that it can be a lot harder to start one of these things off than you might think. The big problem there is going to be slow participation, especially if you're asking people to log into a community which on your site that you've set up for them. From their perspective, it's just another community, okay? And it's another login that they've got to remember. And that can provide a little bit of complexity for them. Not that they can't figure it out. It's just that if you make them jump over one or two hurdles, they're a lot less likely to utilize it. And then compounding it is that if they get the distinct impression that there's just not that many people in there and that their questions are going unanswered, that really is going to put, a big, sad face on the whole thing. They're just not going to, once they receive that failure of putting your question out there and it just didn't really get answered, or it took like 3 weeks for it to get answered, their enthusiasm of using that forum is really going to dwindle and people just won't use it. And so you've got to have a plan in place if you're going to bring a community to the table to deal with that, okay? You've really got to have a plan to ramp up that community. It's going to take a lot of structured time on your part to pose questions and maybe use your member email list to bring people into that forum and get them to chime in. And you're going to have to just direct people in there and really spark the community. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to have it happen. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about platforms. Like, okay, you decided you want to set up a community. What do you build it on top of? Well, the first idea is that of having a forum. Now, forums are great. They're a little old school in the fact that they've been around such a long time, from the old news group and bulletin board days, and they've kind of moved forward, but in not a whole lot of ways. But there are a ton of forum packages out there to choose from, like PHP-BB, vBulletin, Envision Board. There's lots of these things out there, and you basically just need to take a pick as to which ones you like and which ones your membership site platform can integrate with fairly easily, because you've got to be able to protect this forum so that it's only for members. Now, another option, and this is one that I use somewhat, is BB Press. BB Press is created by the same people that made WordPress itself, so therefore they talk together really nicely. It's actually a really stripped down forum that sits right on top of WordPress itself, and it's just nice and easy. And that's one of the ones that I use inside the lab is BB Press. Completely and totally free. It also has a number of add-on plugins that allow it to work with a lot of other membership plugins. And also, because a lot of membership plugins for WordPress happen to use the standard WordPress user system to begin with, a lot of times you can protect that forum content just naturally like that. Okay. Now, the big pro with these forums is that it allows you to have full control over the community environment. It also allows you to own that content because it stays on your platform. Now, that's probably the biggest deal there, is that all that discussion, if you can successfully spark this community, is that it's going to be on your server. You own it. Nobody can take it away from you. You can have full search functionality. There's a number of flexible capabilities that come along with having that forum inside of a environment that you control. Okay. Now, the reason I bring that up is because another very, very popular option that I wanted to bring up to you as an option is that of the Facebook group. Now, many programs out there, it's become very popular to have private Facebook groups for paying members, where you just set up a Facebook group, and one of the options on that is to have it be closed, where people have to request access to it. But you can also have those Facebook groups be secret, so that not only can nobody find it without you telling them specifically that it's there, but they can't see it, they can't see who's a member. It's completely and totally cloaked if it's a secret group. And so you can set up these groups, and one of the biggest reasons why I'm a big fan of the Facebook group for this is that it's easy for people. There's no hurdles there. Most people, at least in my market, and many markets, just odds are, because there's 1.2, 1.3 billion people on Facebook, is that most of your audience probably has a Facebook profile. And not only that, statistically speaking, they are probably on Facebook almost every day. They're there for their personal lives. They're there for the purposes of discussion. We're all carrying around apps on our phones that allow easy access to Facebook. And so it's super easy to engage in a community on Facebook. Another cool thing about Facebook groups is that when somebody posts something in that group, a little notification pops up at the Facebook top menu bar. And so that keeps conversation happening because people who are part of your community see that notification and they want to come in and check it out. Okay. So there's multiple reasons why I think Facebook is a really good platform for a member community. Now, you do need to manually manage that bad boy. There's no automatic way of integrating WordPress and Facebook like this. There's just no way to make your members automatic members of a Facebook group. So what I have to do internally is we've got a little internal process that we tell people in the welcome email and in some follow-ups to go to the group and request membership, and then my VA has to manually go in there and approve them. And so it's a manual process, and we just make that clear at the outset. Now, the other big thing you got to keep in mind with Facebook is that you don't own that group and you don't own that content. It's on Facebook's system. So it's theirs, okay? So what I mean is that you don't want to use a Facebook group for something that is absolutely mission critical to your membership. If community is the primary part of your member benefits, I wouldn't put it on Facebook. But if it's an add-on and what they're really paying for is training content or software or something like that, a private Facebook group can work really well. The other thing about that content in a Facebook group is that even though there's search functionality on Facebook, it just isn't all that great. It's not really all that polished. And so there's not a lot of long-term value to the content inside of a Facebook group. So you just got to keep that in mind. But it's really good for engagement. You know, I can tell you that with the Blog Monetization Lab, I used to have a forum in there, and that was the primary means of community. And it was really, really tough to get going. When I moved it to the Facebook group, now we have daily interaction inside the lab community, multiple times per day. It's a much more active community. And I think a big part of that, not only is it, growth in the lab community itself, but it's also because we make it so simple because it's on Facebook. All right. So the question you need to ask yourself is, should you have a community? Should you have one? Now, I'll be upfront with you. If you're starting from scratch and you don't have that big of an audience right now, I would recommend that you don't worry about a community inside your membership, okay? Work on the other core benefits of that program with the content, or is it software? But what are they really paying for? Go work on that, okay? Because it's going to take some real concerted time and effort to get that community off the ground, and it makes your program look a lot better if the stuff that they're truly paying for is really good, versus having that negative vibe of having a community that just looks like it's crickets in there. That's going to do you a lot more harm than just simply not having any community at all. So if you're starting from scratch, you don't have that big audience right now, don't worry about the community. Now, on the other hand, if you think a community can bring some benefit to the group and you have an audience in place and you're pretty confident that if you tell people about it and have a concerted participation campaign of getting people involved and you can bring them in, then go for it. Get it set up, okay? But that's the big thing there is, do you have a member base in place that's ready to use this community? If you don't have that, it's going to be crickets. It's going to be really hard to get it going. And then you've got to engage in all kinds of weird little tactics. I've heard people who will go and start multiple forum profiles, but yet they're the ones controlling all of them. And they basically have to go in there and simulate conversation. I mean, I guess it could work, but it's kind of weird. That's just kind of weird to have to do stuff like that. Now, my preference between forum and a Facebook group is the Facebook group. I prefer Facebook group as the platform for member engagement. For multiple reasons that I've already said, it's just a lot easier. Now, I did mention earlier that I do have forums inside the lab, and I want to talk to you a little bit about why I have both. I'll be totally upfront with you. The Facebook group gets by far more engagement than the forums inside the lab, and I absolutely knew that was what was going to happen, okay? So instead of having a series, you click on a tab inside the program that says forum, and then there's a bunch of zeros and not a lot going on, what I've done is I've specifically made forums that tie in to the individual action plans that I have inside the Blog Monetization Lab. And so that's how it works. You've got the action plan with all the content, and then off to the side, there's two options. One is to go into the Facebook group and ask a question, and then the other one is to go into the related forum to that action plan and ask a question. And I'm very upfront with people that the reason we use those forums is specifically for content that has long-term value. It's for putting content up there that's going to add to the overall long-term value of the action plan. And in fact, if we find really valuable discussions going on inside the Facebook group, we might actually try to redirect it over to the forum. And it's simply for long-term value of future members, for searchability and things like that. And so with that little caveat on our forum, that's how I've put forums into the lab. I don't want anybody to think that the lab forum is the primary means of communication, because if they thought that, they would think the Blog Monetization Lab was a very dead place, and it's certainly not. It's just that almost all the conversations happening in our Facebook group, okay? So with all that being said, hopefully you can make a decision on to whether a community for your membership is the right thing to do for you. If you're asking yourself a bunch of questions that whether you could really ramp it up, that's probably a good indicator that it might not be time to do it. When you've got enough members in place where you know that if you email out your member base, you're probably going to send, a couple hundred people at least into that forum right off the bat or into that Facebook group, then go ahead and start one up and see what happens. But definitely have that game plan in place. Maybe have some theme discussions going on that are on a schedule, and you direct your members into that thing, and you've really got to make a purposeful effort to spark it up. Okay, all that said and done, if you'd like to participate in this lab community that I've been talking about so much in this episode, you've got to be a member of the Blog Monetization Lab. It's definitely a worthwhile group to be involved in. Lots of questions being asked every day. I'm in there every single day answering. So if you want to have access to me and have me answering your business questions pretty much on demand, your best place to do that is going to be inside the Blog Monetization Lab community. So if you want to learn about that and all the other benefits of the lab, head on over to blogmonetizationlab.com and learn more. I also want to remind you that if you're finding these episodes valuable, if you're finding this entire course known as Coffee Break Blogging valuable, I would highly appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend, okay? And you could go over to iTunes, to blogmarketingacademy.com/iTunes, hop on in there and post a star rating and review and let the world know what you think about this podcast. Another thing you can do is jump into Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus and just share out the URL to coffeebreakblogging.com and let them know why you subscribe to this show, and be sure to use the hashtag CBB. That's for Coffee Break Blogging. Use that hashtag of CBB. It'll increase the chances that I actually see what your share is, and I'll be able to thank you publicly. Okay, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time at Coffee Break Blogging. Thanks for listening to this episode of Coffee Break Blogging. If you like what you heard here today, we have something awesome we'd love to send you. It's called the Blog Conversion Guide, and it has 9 tweaks you can make to your blog in order to increase your conversion rate to get more opt-ins and sales. As one of our listeners, we'd love to give you access to this guide absolutely free. You can get your copy right now by going to coffeebreakblogging.com. Again, go to coffeebreakblogging.com to get your copy, and we'll see you next time.